Back, and in this video I'll be giving you some information on Data Lakehouse. So now if you heard Lakehouse, it's not any holiday destination or any place that you can holiday on. It's a combination of a data warehouse and a data lake. So if this is something new to you, then here is some information. So let's get into it. So a data lake house, as I said, is a combination of a data warehouse and a data lake. So all these three are actually data analytics platforms. So before getting into what is a data lake house, let us see what is a data warehouse and a data lake. So first off, a data warehouse. So a data warehouse is a central consolidated repository of data from various sources. Okay, and the data that is in this warehouse is in a structured format. And also the schema needs to be known before writing data into a warehouse. So let me explain this a little more. So the very first point, as I said, the data warehouse is a central consolidated repository of data from various sources. So imagine you have data in various locations and various data sources. So all these data from these various sources are going to be taken and then consolidated into a single repository, a centralized repository, which is what we call a data warehouse. And also if you see here, the data that is being stored over here, it has to be in a particular format. Okay, it has to be in a structured format. So what happens if this data is not according to this particular format? Then you have to do some data transformation. Transformation is nothing but adjusting the data or massaging the data in order that it is able to fit into the target sources or the target destinations format. So that's why it is said that the data which is in this centralized repository over here is, since it has a particular format, the data becomes structured. Okay, it cannot accommodate any unstructured or semi-structured data. So whatever data is over here, it is structured in a well-defined format. And also in order to write this data, as I said, so when you go and load data into a repository, into a destination, that time it is said to be a write operation because you're going and inserting something, right? So in order to do this write operation, the schema, which is the format, needs to be known. Only then you would be able to transform your data in that particular format and then go and load your data in the destination. So that is the explanation of these 3 points. Apart from this, if you see the advantages of this data warehouses, it is very well formatted and therefore it is ready to use because you already have data that is well formatted. You can do a lot of things with it. Okay, so the different consuming applications, what they can do is they can get this data from the data warehouse and they can use it for multiple use cases. Some of the use cases are, with this data you can do data analytics, you can do a lot of reporting dashboards, you can do a lot of analysis with that data. Also you can do data mining. Now this is not limited to only data analytics and mining, there are many more, but I have given this as an example. And since the data that is well formatted, you do a lot of transformation, the data quality is also going to be better. There is good data quality. And since everything is structured, imagine querying this data. You know the structure, you know the schema, you know the syntax. So querying this data and data retrieval is very much faster because everything is known to the consumers. And if you want to know what is this transformation, it's this old process that I defined till here. It's called as the extract, transform and load, okay, process, which is sometimes called as ETL. So if you want to know more about ETL, I have taken a video on what is ETL. I will share the link in the description box. You can take a look at it. So generally when you extract data from these sources, it's called as extraction. The entire massaging part of the data is called as transformation, and going and writing it into the destination is called as load. So the entire process is called as ETL. So you can take a look at that also in later on. So now the question is, it all looks really good, right? Having this data and then storing it, and then you use this data for your analytics and stuff. But what happens to unstructured data? Data such as audio files, video files, data from Twitter, IoT data. What happens to all this? How are we going to process this information? How do we store all this information? Okay, so the one drawback with this one of the drawbacks of data warehouse is that it cannot accommodate semi-structured or unstructured raw data. Okay, but in our current trends and current days, there's a lot of information and insights and valuable data you can get from this unstructured data. So definitely organizations are trying to make the best use of this unstructured data. So now what happens, you need some platform that can accommodate this unstructured data, and that's where the data lake comes in. So the data lake can accommodate structured, semi-structured as well as unstructured data. So it comes and says, hey, here I can, kind of overcome this particular drawback of the warehouse. So the data lake says, I can accommodate structured data, I can accommodate even semi-structured or even unstructured data. Super cool, right? So if you see here, the entire process is whatever be the data, whether it's structured or unstructured or semi-structured, everything is going to be stored in a data lake. And this data lake, it doesn't have any particular schema in which you have to go and load your data. Okay, the schema is not known. So all the data that is extracted from these sources just goes and gets dumped into this data lake. So if at all you want to make use of this data or you want to use this data, you first have to read the data. So always, that's why they say the data lake is the schema on read, where you can read the data and not specifically go and write any data into it. Okay, so if at all you want to kind of make use of this data, then after the data is stored, you go into the data lake and then you get data out of the data lake, and you can use it for whatever purpose you want. For example, if you want to clean up that data and you want to have a structured data for analytics, then you perform an ETL, you do ETL processing, and then you use it for analytics, mining, etc. Now with unstructured data, there's a lot of things that can be done. You can do machine learning, you can do sentiment analysis. So for all this, particular AI algorithms are used for that. And it is being used to do these particular things, which is, as I said, predictive sentiment analysis, etc. So, and if you see the majorly who are the people involved in these two stages is in mostly the business people and the business side people who want to do a lot of analysis with ready-made data. It's mostly the business and data analysts, okay, and they want to do some reporting, they want to do some analysis, get some insights. So this mostly suits the business and data analyst side of users. If you see the raw data side, people who work with raw data and want to get out insights from raw data, okay, want to work with data, they are mostly the data scientists, okay. So mostly, if you see, mostly the data lake is suitable for data scientists, because with all that chunk of data, they want to make sense of that data. They want to, find insights from that data. They want to torture that data to get some information. So it's really suitable for data scientists. And business and data analysts, they want information, they want reports, they want insights immediately. So getting this data, processing this data, and then getting insights of it, it's kind of burdensome and really cumbersome. So this is about the data lake. So another point to note here is this data lake. So imagine you have a set of information and it's stored in the data lake. Now this data lake, as I said, from here data is taken and you do ETL processing. So there's already a set of data over here. The same data is taken and you do some processing and you load the data in another destination. So if you see, there's kind of redundant data that happens when you deal with data lakes. And as I mentioned, the pros is it's schema on read, it accommodates structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. All data types can be stored. But when you have all these types of data there, you don't have any organization, you don't have any schema, it goes without saying there's poor data quality, okay. And you need additional tools to format that data, which is like, you need to format that data, make a lot of sense of the data, to query the data. All this is required, and just getting some insights, querying this data, it's really, 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 really poor. So that's about the data lake. Now in order to overcome these issues, there needs to be someone coming into the picture, right? Something in order to overcome these things, and that's where the data lakehouse comes into picture. So this is something that's of recent trends, some recent architectures that have come about. But to put it very short in business terms, it's a combination of a data warehouse and a data lake, what I said initially. So what is the difference is that this accommodates structured and unstructured and semi-structured data, as well as the data, they tend to be in structured formats. So what happens is all the data are extracted from sources, and within the data lake, now note this point very carefully, within the data lake, the data is stored, and based on different business needs for different specific use cases, the data is taken and processed. So within this data lake, since half of the people, they kind of want functionalities that suit the data warehouse, so then what happens is there is this ETL, the entire transformation process put in place. So data that comes in, it's extracted, transformed, and then loaded. As well as unstructured data tend to get stored, and you can use that unstructured data for whatever AI algorithms and other use cases you can use it for. And if you see here, there's no redundant data. Whatever data comes from this source, it's transformed and loaded. It doesn't get stored in some intermediary storage, and then from there data is pulled and then transformed. So unlike this one, what I said. So therefore, this helps the users to take advantage of um, the data lake house. Sorry, this is not data lake, I forgot to edit it. The data lake house, this allows users to take advantage of the lake house, which has the properties and the best of both from the data warehouse as well as from the data lake. So if you see, the pros here is it accommodates structured data as well as unstructured data. Also, there is concurrent reads and writes. So you read data. So as the data keeps coming in, data gets transformed, processed, and loaded, and there are consumers consuming that data, reading that data, and doing further analysis with that data for various other use cases. So there's concurrent read and write. So it also complies with the asset transactions, okay, the asset properties. Also, since I said the data coming in from these sources get transformed and loaded, it works in real time. So whatever incoming data keeps coming there, it gets extracted, transformed, and loaded. Or whatever incoming data comes, that is being used, and a particular machine learning or an AI algorithm takes that data and keeps working with that data. So it has real-time data flow. Also, the schema, whichever is involved over here, it helps in data governance. And as I mentioned earlier, there's no redundant data. And also it's very cost effective because you have best of both, the data warehouse as well as the data lake, all in one in a data lake house. So this is about the data lake house. I hope you got some information. So there's some other videos that I have taken on data warehouse, data lake, and also data marts. I'll put up that video also and all relevant videos. So if you want to take a look at them, you can do it. And if you found this video helpful, you can, please do share it with your friends. Please like this video, and also please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.